Hello, Pirates. Today's topic is the cell cycle and mitosis. And the cell cycle is pretty much the life cycle of the cell. So on the front of this paper, we are going to go over the life cycle of the cell. So this is the overview. And then on the back side of this paper, we are going to go into the details of the phases of mitosis, the division of the nucleus. So on the front, when you guys are looking at the front of this document, and we're looking at the cell cycle is pretty much the life cycle of a cell. So here we're talking about our cell cycle. So this is the cell's life cycle. So here we have the cell cycle. And these are doodle notes. So, you guys want to get out your colored pencils or pens and kind of color in your notes so that you have, something to remember the cell cycle with. And sometimes when you color and draw content, it kind of marinates the information in your brain so that you're kind of absorbing everything. You just kind of color and think about, the life cycle of the cell. So here we have the cell cycle. So this whole circle here is going to take us through the life cycle of a cell. And so when a cell begins, right? So it's a brand new cell. The cell is going to start off in what we call G1. Okay? So we're going to start off what we're going to refer to as a G1 phase. So we're going to have the G1 phase. And G1 is going to stand for growth. Okay, so G1 phase is the growth phase. So what happens during G1 is there is active growth in the cell. So active growth and protein production. So active growth and protein production. This is what a cell does when it just starts off in life. It grows just like a new person grows. And what's going to happen is eventually the cell is going to grow so much, and at some point it is going to receive a message, and that message is going to maybe tell the cell that it's time to divide. So at some point it will receive a message to divide. And during this G1 phase, our chromosome, that genetic information, is unduplicated. All right, so here we have an unduplicated chromosomes. So the chromosomes are unduplicated. And at some point, our cell is going to receive a signal from a nearby cell, or it's going to get so big that it's not going to be able to, it's going to be so large that it's going to need to divide. And so then it's going to enter the S phase. And the S phase of the cell cycle, the S stands for synthesis. And the thing that's going to be synthesized or made during the S phase is the duplicated chromosomes. And so what happens here is the DNA replicates. So it's going to go through DNA replication. And so we're going to go from having our unduplicated chromosome to having our duplicated chromosomes. So here I've got my centromere, and now I've got a duplicated chromosomes. So in humans, all 46 of those chromosomes are going to duplicate. Then the cell is going to enter G2. So now the cell has grown, it made proteins, it's replicated its DNA. And what happens next is it's going to enter its G2, which would be gap 2 or growth 2 phase. And what happens during G2 is the cell is going to have more continued growth. So it's going to continue to grow. And new organelles are going to be produced. So the organelles, like the mitochondria or maybe chloroplasts, they are going to duplicate for division. And so our cell here is just preparing to divide. The centrioles are duplicated. And as far as our chromosomes go, our chromosomes are still duplicated chromosomes ready to divide. All right, so this whole section right here, okay, that I just did in orange, from here all the way around and over here, this is all interphase, okay? So this is all interphase, this whole section. So interphase is the phase in between cellular divisions. And what happens during interphase is active growth of the cell, the chromosomes duplicate, the organelles duplicate, and the cell prepares to divide. Okay, so this whole section right here, and you can shade the whole thing in orange if you like. This is all interphase. And when we think about interphase, this time in between cell divisions, we really can kind of think about, well, what's happening, in our cell, and, all the things that you guys wrote down. But the biggest thing to look at our circle is this is most of our circle. So what happens during interphase is all of these things right here, and just kind of know that this is the longest. Okay, so this is the longest phase of the cell cycle. This is where the cell spends most of its time. So this is the longest phase of the cell cycle is interphase. All right, so what happens next is the cell is going to get ready to divide. So here it says, for mitosis, mitosis comes next. And it says here what exactly is, mitosis. So what is this process called mitosis? And mitosis is specifically, this is the division of the nucleus. So this is the division of the nucleus and the chromosomes. So the division of the nucleus and the chromosomes, which are those sister chromatids. So those sister chromatids are going to break apart during mitosis. So this whole section here, this is all about mitosis. All right, so during mitosis, mitosis has 4 phases. So the first phase of mitosis is prophase. The second phase of mitosis is metaphase. The third phase is anaphase. And the fourth part is called telophase or telophase. Sometimes you'll hear them pronounce it. And so you can remember PMAT or PMAT to remember the order. So prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. So mitosis begins, and that's the division of the nucleus and the chromosomes. So all of these, this is the dividing of the nucleus and the chromosomes. That's mitosis. And then the last thing that's going to happen here is cytokinesis. Okay, so this last one right here, this is cytokinesis. And cytokinesis is the division of the cell and the cytoplasm. So cytokinesis is the division of the cytoplasm. And at the end of cytokinesis, we are going to have 2 identical daughter cells. So this is when the cytoplasm and the organelles in the cytoplasm are going to separate and divide. So here we have our cytokinesis. Now, what happens after this is some cells are then going to enter a a G0 phase. Okay. So most cells that are going to go through a gap phase, which is like G0, and this is considered a resting phase. And during this time, the cells are not dividing or preparing to divide. And so during that time, they will go about their normal cell business, and this is what most cells do. So most cells will enter this G0 phase where they rest and go about their normal cell life. Some cells might start dividing again. So some cells will then, eventually at some point will start going through that cell cycle, active growth, synthesis, G2, and then back into mitosis. The last thing on here for you guys to think about is, why do your cells divide at all? Okay, so you guys want to think like, why do my cells divide? And there are 4 reasons why your cells divide. One reason that your cells divide is for growth and development. So you guys are still growing, you're still developing. All that growth you did from the time you were, a tiny fertilized egg cell to now, it's all just cell division. So as you grow, you're going through tons of cellular divisions to become an adult. The other reason is for repair and replacement of tissues. So you are repairing cells that are damaged and replacing cells that are worn out. Your cells also divide for reproduction to make gamete cells. And the final reason here is sometimes your cells divide because they just get plain old too big. And that means the surface area of the cytoplasm, or the surface area of the plasma membrane, there's too much cytoplasm to cell membrane. And there's too much, it's too big for there to be a efficient diffusing of substances into and out of the cell for the cell to function efficiently. So this is the cell cycle. The longest phase here is interphase, and mitosis is the division of the nucleus, cytokinesis the division of the cytoplasm. This is the basic overview. On the back, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty details, but you guys want to take a pause and then click on the second video for mitosis.